Let's get some instant analysis. Welcome in Tim Doyle and Avery Johnson, and what a game there. Certainly a tale of two halves. And Coach Avery, I'll start with you first because it really came down to the turnovers. What did you see from Baylor attacking there in the second half?
Well, in the second half, it's all about adjustments. I was fortunate to coach in two NCAA tournament games a couple of years ago when I was at Alabama and we upset Virginia Tech in the first game, and then we played against Villanova in the second game. And the key is making adjustments at halftime. Give Scott Drew credit. They pounded the ball inside with penetration, with the pass, because it was all about getting points in the paint. They realized they weren't going to win this game tonight with their three-point shooting. And you don't win many NCAA tournament games when you only make three-pointers. But give them credit. They pounded the offensive glass. They turned Villanova over. Villanova usually don't lose games when they're winning at the half. Both teams were undefeated whenever they are winning at the half. So give Scott Drew all the credit in the world for making that adjustment, going inside, and really taking it to Villanova, especially with their physicality in the second half.
Avery knows this. Great teams win playing different styles. You want to play fast with Baylor? No problem. They can play really fast. They won with this game with their defense. They've won games this year with their three-point shooting. Both these teams only made 3 threes each. So obviously shooting was tough in Hinkle. But defensively, that's where Baylor won the game. And interesting enough, Hakeem, I know you got excited during that Brandon Slater dunk, and that was at the 13:30 mark of the second half. And that dunk put Villanova up 39-33. And it was a massive moment. It was like, oh man, Villanova could win this game type moment. Davion Mitchell came down and got a cheap little layup. He flipped it in. And from that point, Baylor outscored Villanova, including that layup, 14-2. So from the 13:30 mark to the 6:14 mark, talk about 7 minutes of game time, Villanova only managed 2 points. Oh, and their possessions, they were 1 of 4 from the field, and 5 straight possessions, they turned the ball over. That's how small a margin is. That if you have a bad 7-minute stretch against an elite level team, bye-bye. Not only do you lose, you don't even cover, for crying out loud.
Yeah, all of our guys were on it, so good on you guys for predicting that. They cover the 7.5 with ease as they make some free throws down the stretch. Tim, when you take a look at how they attacked, and that's really been their calling card. We know most of the season, of course, they led Division I in three-point shooting, but in terms of their defensive prowess here, 53 turnovers through the first 3 tournament games. I mean, they're locking teams up, had 8 steals in this game. What did you see from a defensive perspective from this team?
You know, as I'm getting older, the game looks harder to play because these guys are wildly athletic and they really stick their nose in there. I mean, you see hands that are actively trying to pressure Villanova. Really, the cat and mouse game that took place here, Coach, was Jay Wright knew he couldn't go up and down. He knew that to win this game, he had to shorten the game, long possessions, pound the post, take good care of the basketball, and they did all that in the first half, and they were up 7 points. Then all of a sudden, once Baylor got that momentum, once Baylor started to turn them over, once Baylor turned up the heat defensively, and now you fall behind. Yeah, it's an easy game play. We're going to play slow. We know we can't go up and down with Baylor. But then when you start losing, now you got to start speeding up. Now you got to start playing faster, and that's what Baylor wants to do. I just love the fact, Coach, that Baylor can beat you so many different ways, and in this game, it was their defense.
And especially their defense on Caleb Daniels. You know, here's a kid that's been solid. He transferred to Villanova from Tulane, and, you know, he's 1 for 11 from the field. And I know what happens in terms of scouting reports. Sure, Robinson Earl is a terrific player, but you can bet your bottom dollar that Scott Drew, part of the game plan was eliminating Daniels from this game, and he did it. Daniels turned the ball over 4 times. He struggled to shoot the basketball. They pressured him because he's an average ball handler. And when you have guys like Davion Mitchell that's harassing the ball handler, you know, one of the top defenders, not just in the Big 12, but in the country. They really did an outstanding job defensively, especially in the second half. Now, at the 11:01 mark, Baylor also had 11 offensive rebounds. They only had 2 the remaining part of the game, but they really did it on the defensive end, and they just pounded Villanova on the boards.
Tim, I know it's tough to project this, but Colin Gillespie is Villanova's second leading scorer. He, of course, suffers the torn MCL at the end of the regular season. If he plays in this game, do they win this game, or is it closer?
You know, I think it's a totally different pace of the game, because Coach knows this. I mean, he was a much better player than I was, but it's actually easier to go by a guy when they're guarding you that tight. But that was not what Villanova wanted to do, right? Villanova, they wanted to take long possessions. They wanted to go side to side. So now all of a sudden Baylor was able to get up in them, and they weren't able to go north and south, especially early in the shot clock, because the game plan was we don't want to go up and down. So Colin Gillespie changes the complexion of this team. He's a veteran. He's been there before. He's made big shots. He's been on the big stage. And Caleb Daniels is more of a 2, more of a 3. I covered him at Tulane, and they really thrust him into the 1 spot. And yeah, he was getting hounded all game, and all of a sudden the heat eventually got to him. But that was the game plan. They wanted to slow it down. And then once they fell behind, Baylor's defense turned it up a notch. Just like how Avery Johnson would be locking me up, Hakeem. I'd be trying to back him down like magic, and he would be like, he'd be pushing me out of my spot. I could never get to my spot.
Well, my buddy Tim, Northwestern University's finest, here's what I would say with Gillespie. When he's not on the court, because I coached against him when he was a freshman at Villanova in his freshman year, you lose a coach on the floor. You lose somebody that can settle the team down, especially if they're turning the ball over. You have another ball handler, a quarterback, a guy that can knock down the 3-point shot. But he's basically the head of the snake. He's the engine in the car. And when he's not there, that means everybody else has more ball handling responsibilities. They have more opportunities to pass the ball when maybe they were receivers of a Gillespie pass, is whether a regular assist or hockey assist. So when you lose an experienced veteran player like that, sure, he could have made a world of difference. Not sure if it was going to be to the point where they would have upset Baylor today, but he could have kept it a little bit closer, and they probably would have taken better care of the ball.
Avery and Tim are BFFs. In case you didn't know, Avery Johnson calls out Tim Doyle during the tournament, so that they're pals. They're going to be enjoying some beverages and steaks in Indianapolis, and I'll tag along as well. I'm curious, will we see Baylor get to the Final Four, Tim? Is Baylor getting to the Final Four? They would play the winner of Oral Roberts, Arkansas. Who would they rather see?
Come on, that's easy, Hakeem. You know it, I know it, the American people know it. If they'd rather see Oral Roberts, right? Is that going to happen? I seriously doubt it. I find myself rooting for Oral Roberts just because what an amazing story there are. Obviously, Max Asmus rifling up threes. But when I saw their pressure, I did start thinking of Gonzaga, Coach. I do think that pressure could bother Kispert on the perimeter because he's such a great shooter. He's always around screens. And Suggs is only a freshman. I know he doesn't look like a freshman. I know he hasn't played as a freshman. Do you think that Baylor pressure could disrupt Gonzaga's offense?
Absolutely. And I think with Baylor, it's not just with Suggs and Kispert. It's also they have the players that can attack Drew Timme off the dribble. And that's a big key, to have guys that can make Drew Timme play on the perimeter and not just inside, and come out and force him into switching situations, and Baylor can put them in the bind. And I think if you were going to beat Baylor, today was the day to beat them, especially with how they struggled shooting the 3-point shot. But they have the guards and Butler, Mitchell, T that can pressure those Gonzaga guards. And I agree with you, Tim, that would be a matchup worth watching. But I have Baylor beating either Oral Roberts or Arkansas, whomever wins this game today, and Baylor advancing to the Final Four. Well,
we were supposed to get Baylor-Gonzaga in December. Perhaps we get Baylor-Gonzaga on the first Monday in April. We'll see about that, 1 versus 1. That'd be pretty special. All right, Baylor moving on, advancing to the Elite Eight with a win over Villanova thanks to 16 turnovers, taking care of business as they survive and advance. Tim Doyle, Avery Johnson, break it down for us here on CBS Sports HQ. Thank you, men.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.